Coming.
Working now?
Yes, I think I had Vimeo open on another browser. So I don't think one wants to record the other. It's kind of like hiring two private investigators to follow each other. I don't think it works. So
Okay.
anyway, how are you for episode two?
I am doing well. Can't complain.
Good. All right. Well, um, as we had discussed about what our topic would be this week, the first question that I have, and I know that you've done some in-depth things, and the funny thing is, I've actually utilized this program, and I still don't know what exactly do you call this program where you're pulling off this amazing magic trick and tacking all these arrears on the back.
So essentially what we're able to perform is called a an FHA partial claim is what we're actually performing. And what
Gotcha.
we're doing is we're helping a homeowner navigate the process of homeownership retention in the hopes that the homeowner is then able to maintain or keep the property once they are no longer in arrears. So to give a little bit of context for any of our viewers or future individuals watching, for instance, you had a property
I did.
where a homeowner in Reno, Nevada was over $70,000 behind on their mortgage payment. So what we do is we come in and we provide on a consultant only basis education on what paperwork is needed and what the process is in order for someone who has an FHA loan specifically to go through the process of navigating what is called a partial claim. In this process, the mortgage servicer will analyze the loan that you have. And essentially, what they say is when they analyze the loan, some servicers will look at the total balance of the loan in which you received. Most servicers look at whatever the current unpaid principal balance is on the loan. And then they say, over the life of the loan, for the remainder of that life of the loan, you have 30% of that unpaid principal balance that you can utilize to either help you catch back up or make your mortgage more affordable by payment supplements and things of that nature. And you can exercise those funds through HUD, which will then basically pay the service provider the amount of funds in which you were insufficient. And then HUD will record a non-forgivable secondary lien in second position at 0%, collecting no interest and no monthly payments. And then they'll tell you that you owe HUD the money back whenever you sell your property, whenever you refinance your property, or whenever you have officially paid off your first position mortgage. You will owe that payment in the real estate world is what we call a balloon payment or a lump sum payment.
Got it. And you understand that from my position, and I'm going to show everybody this example, I've got it pulled up. It looks like a magic trick. So, number one, how did you find out that this was a thing? I mean, this is not ordering off of the In-N-Out burger menu. This is, and they're about to see, this is $73,000 of interest-free money. How in the world did you? I know that you like to, without, nerd out on going deep dives of paperwork. How did you find out about this?
So essentially, the crazy thing is, um, I had a friend of mine who's been in real estate for about 25 years, who utilized this process on a property in Florida. And all he did was tell me about the process. And once he told me what he did, and his went a little faster than most cases. He's also got a lot of connections in higher places.
How
So
fast?
his was done within 24 hours as an approved. Yeah, so his was approved within 24 hours and documents were issued within like 72 hours after that. The fastest I've seen, I would say, is about 8 days. This case was actually one of the fastest when we decided to part ways with the state organization. We won't say any names just for,
Right.
political purposes.
Right.
But when we decided to separate ways from the non-for-profit organization or government entity that was set up to help homeowners,
And went
uh,
straight to the FHA, basically, or HUD.
yes, and we went straight through the FHA programs that are built into the FHA loan. It was approved from FHA and HUD within 8 business days.
Yeah, no, and it's amazing and it's stunning. So I'm gonna, and I'll actually, bring some receipts here onto the screen in just a moment. But how many of these have you successfully done so far? So your friends and mine. So that's two that I know of.
So we've done probably been doing this process for about 6 months. I'd say without because we haven't really been keeping, super duper track of all of this, but I'd say we've probably in the last 6 months, we've probably completed at least without exaggeration, at least 15 to 20 of these.
Wow. Okay. And FHA only or VA? What flavors?
The VA is very iffy. They change the rules in VA the same way that people change their underwear.
Right.
So the
So for
VA,
me, that's like, once a month, whether I need to or not.
so
Kidding.
right. So the VA was allowing it for some point in time, and then the VA suspended that benefit.
But they also
Um,
kind of suspended foreclosure. And for those that don't know, the FHA, now there's FHA loans, there's VA loans. I think VA loans might arguably be the most attractive because, you go out there and you defend our country and that you deserve it for your service. Then, of course, there's conventional loans. There's there's different kinds, but the traditional 20% down loan, and I didn't know this until a couple of years ago when my friend was worried that she'd never be able to save the 20% to buy a home. And of course, I told her, Eve, you don't need to save 20%, you need 3.5%. And because I was right about that, because I've been learning about real estate, she's actually in a brand new construction build in Texas, and she was into it 3.5% down. So FHA, it's the least amount of money you can put down because it's a federally backed loan. They do make you jump through some hoops, but there are some benefits. For example, this thing that you're talking about right here.
100%. I mean, FHA hands down is, in my opinion, many people will argue different things. FHA is the most attractive first-time home buyers loan that there is. There's many things built into FHA. FHA can actually be used twice if you know what you're doing.
And they're doing multifamily now, right? Up to 4 units.
Correct. You
Yeah.
can buy a 4 unit under FHA with only 3.5% down.
Amazing. Yeah.
That has always been the case with FHA. I advocate for anyone that's going to utilize FHA. It makes the most sense for you to buy a 4 unit simply because one of the things your agent is not going to tell you when you're buying a multifamily unit, even on the residential side, is the mortgage servicer will give you credit for 75% under FHA, 75% of whatever that property would bring in under rental on the rental market. So if you've got a 4 unit that can bring in $1,000 a unit, you're gonna live in 1 unit rent free. You can bring in $4,000 total. The FHA lender will say that that property can bring you an extra 3 grand a month, which is $36,000 a year, and they will add that to your already current annual income and approve you for the loan based off of what you would make if you own that 4 unit plus what you currently make.
Amazing. Yeah, no, amazing. And I even, my, some of my single, employees at the auction house. I'm like, you're still young and single. If you can house hack, freaking house hack, don't the rest of us, got all these, dogs and pets and kids and mothers and, all that stuff there are some benefits to being, to being able to be young enough to house hack and do that. So you've done at least 15. How many have you failed on? How many did they give you the nope?
Um, I will say honestly, we have not had one yet that has
Wow.
been declined. We did have a special scenario where an individual had they were only their loan only supported about a $75,000 balance. They had used 40,000 in 2023. We were using an additional, they used I think 44,000. They only had 74,000 to begin. And then we used an additional 30,000 this year, or we advised them how to navigate that. But they were about 36,000 behind. So we were able to say, hey, why don't you put the $30,000 behind? We'll come to the table with 6 grand towards the principal, put the 6 grand down. Now we're only coming to the table with 6 grand instead of 36,000. So if somebody can save you 30 grand and you only come to the table
Yeah,
with
at
six
an
grand.
interest-free deferred loan, that it's not there's no such thing less than 0%, at least, not that I've seen. And I thought, you might say that your batting average was maybe, like when with me stopping foreclosures, I'd say that I bat about 650, because I do get ones that won't, that don't get stopped and all that stuff. So your batting average on this is far higher.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, and it all depends, right? There's a lot of things. We need the homeowner to reside in the property. We need the homeowner to show that they can still afford the monthly payments. Is the homeowner looking to keep the property? Well, I mean, let's ask anybody that owns a home. If somebody's trying to take your home from you, if you have the ability to keep it, are you going to be looking to keep it? Most likely, yes. Now we need to dig into your financial situation. Can you currently afford to keep it? Or because of the businesses that we run, do we have the ability to help you by maybe employing you or giving you a short-term job opportunity to where you're able to show that you can, in fact, afford the monthly mortgage, and being able to work with people all across the country from the different communities that we're in, such as individuals like yourself. Now, if we have a homeowner who's in your neck of the woods and maybe they need some sort of employment, I'm able to call another business owner that I know that's in the Nevada area and say, hey, I have this homeowner. We're trying to save them from foreclosure. Currently, they don't qualify income wise. We were looking to see if maybe you had any positions that we could help you get filled, and they could get an offer letter, which the mortgage servicer would then take as income to verify that they can, in fact, pay the mortgage moving forward.
Amazing. I mean, it's just, and it's amazing. Now, I didn't have any idea. So, and I don't know how much of this will blur out for, whatever sake. Obviously, at this moment, it's, literally just you and I talking. So if I do have to blur out any addresses or, names or sensitive information, I will to keep everything legit. But I'm going to kind of start the story on how I stumbled upon the house that I stumbled on, and then I'm going to kind of have you interject, about what the point where you came in. So let me just see. You did say you can see my screen.
That is correct.
Okay, so let me share the screen. Here we go. Okay, so let's see what I can find here. Boom. Okay, so once upon a time, there was this cute little house, and I was just out door knocking pre-foreclosures. This house was on the pre-foreclosure list. Now you'll notice here that it's off market. That's because Tasheen saved the day, but that was not the case in early 2024. So let's look at how cute this house was. Now, full disclosure, it was not that, guys, when it's in pre-foreclosure. First of all, when I found the house, the owner was mostly, I contacted him in California. He's a traveling electrician. So he had not been, he thought they were going to come take it away. So he wasn't really, interested in hanging on to the house anymore because he owed so much money in the arrears. He didn't realize that this could be a thing. So as you can see from here, it's very, very pretty house, beautiful. I mean, who wouldn't want to own this? And I'm sure, have I shown you these pictures before, Tasheen?
Yes,
Yes. I mean, come on. Would you want to own that house?
100%.
100%. And beautiful backyard, the pergola. Of course, I've already got string lights on there. The dirt, because this is about as well as I garden, so perfect. But again, there's no reason in the world that anybody wouldn't be proud to own this 4 bedroom, 2 bath home with the garage, side yard on both sides. There's a side yard here, there's a side yard there, big backyard, nice garage, big long driveway, and this is a cul-de-sac over here. And then there's just tons of parking, like 1, 2, 3, 4 spots here, and then there's several spots over to the right here and over to the left. So super duper nice house. Now, it didn't look quite this cute when I found it, but The cabinets are still there. This is still there. The kitchen island is still there. Uh, the stools have been changed out, but I'm changing them back. But so obviously a really nice house. So I was door knocking and did not reach anybody there. And again, I know that he was traveling back and forth from Los Angeles and back as an electrician. And so we started making phone calls and I reached him on the phone. And when I looked at the numbers, the problem that I had with the numbers was that at the time he was, and let me just get my piece of paper here. He had a beautiful home, and even Redfin agrees. Let's just do some quick and, some not very,
Reliable numbers.
very high tech math. So, they say, hey, this is a $483,000 house, which is great. Except that what I could tell from the data that I looked, he started it at 416 and he had a balance of 390, but he was, golly, 2-3 years. And let's see if I can tell you guys. Let me see if the pre-foreclosure say they removed the pre-foreclosure details, but we could certainly find that. And let me just search because I'm a county record deep diver. I'm going to show you what I saw. So clearly I first saw the house. Clearly I saw that it was nice. Clearly I saw that there was a man named Manuel Hernandez that I was looking to find. Then my next step here in my neck of the woods is I take this number into my county records because, for those that don't know, pretty much anything that you want to do, for the most part, you should be able to find the story of the home itself on your county's recorder's office. I'm in Washoe County here in Northern Nevada. So what I did was I looked around and I saw that, wow, let's look and see. When was this house born? I don't think it's very old. Early 2000s, maybe. I can always tell too when it's a young house, but it's got pages of documents. If it has a rap sheet a mile long, then I kind of know that there's been some trouble. But we've all sort of had trouble in this economy. So I look right now for the first time I see Manuel Hernandez's name come on the scene. I don't see it on page 1, so we are on page 2, so we can go back to our previous page 1. And I like to start down at the bottom, and I can teach you guys all how to do this. Okay. And okay, once upon a time, there was a man in 2021 named Manuel Hernandez who got a loan with Guild Mortgage. Now, what do we know about 2021? We know it's a pretty good rate, but let me jump back and look at the mortgage and transaction history here. And PropStream's going to confirm for me that in 2021, there he is. He got the loan. He paid $430,000 for it in 2021. But what do we love about it? That interest rate. Look at that interest rate, just under 3%. I don't think that's coming back anytime. So I saw it. I also saw this. It's a $1,710 principal and interest. So with taxes, insurance, and HOA, that still goes up quite a bit. The taxes are a few hundred. The insurance is a couple hundred. The HOA is less than 100. But so I'm just going to, round up and call that, I'm just going to round up and call that about, for the purpose of this, about 2,300. That's not exactly the number, but I also knew that it would cash flow a little bit, but I'm not a buy and holder. I'm a foreclosure buyer that then sells them. The problem with this one was he bought it right before the rates got bad, but he paid a pretty penny for it. He paid $430,000 for it. And so there wasn't a lot of meat on the bone. The problem was he didn't make his payments. So by the time they had it on the auction block, and I can also show you that. So here we go. They buy it. They're all happy. Immediately, Guild Mortgage gives them this. First, they have the deed, and then 5 seconds later, they get the loan. That's how it works. And then we see that there starts being problems. There's liens. There's things going on. There's some trouble happening. And then we see the notice of default. Now, the notice of default is going to tell us, hey, Manuel, remember when you bought this in 2021 and you promised you'd be good? So let's see. It's going to say right there. It's going to say, remember back in the day on 10/15/2021, you told us you was going to pay for this thing. However, you haven't paid us since September of 2022. They said, if you don't bring these payments current, we're going to sell it. Now, they waited their 3 months, which is the customary law in my part of the country. So here we had the notice of default. All the while, more liens are racking up, more liens are racking up, more liens are racking up. Then here they said, all right, we've waited those 3 months as promised. We mean it, Manuel. If you don't fix this right now, we're going to sell it in a month. So then I go and I look at my notice of trustee sale and it'll tell me, remember when you told us on 10/15/2021? Well, here's the thing. We're going to sell this thing on June 28th unless you bring us the total amount due is $450,000. So the problem with that number is because he hadn't paid September of 22, September of 23, September of 24. So it wasn't quite 2 years, but at a couple $1,000 a month, that obviously racks up. So they're saying, listen, if you don't bring this thing current, you owe the bank $450,000 right now. So I was able to reach out to Manuel and I said, hey, could I take this loan subject to the existing debt? And so he and I discussed that, and he explained that he didn't have the money to bring it back current and all of that stuff. And again, I am not a buy and holder, but I just really liked this house. I mean, who wouldn't be proud to own that? And again, I have a home here in town that I live at. I've got fix and flips that I'm working on. It wasn't in my deck of cards to buy and hold, and I wasn't about to spend $70,000 to bring up the arrears, pay all the court fines, and pay the money to fix it up. Also, if this thing would have gone to the courthouse steps, because he owed 450,000, those auction buyers would have wanted to buy it at 400,000 tops. They would, because if it's worth 500,000, they wouldn't want to spend more than 400,000 on it. So the problem with that is it would have gone back to the bank and become real estate owned. So in that case, nobody wins, everybody dies. Manuel gets a foreclosure on his record. The 3% loan is gone forever. The bank gets it back, and the bank really doesn't want it. The bank wants to make that 3% interest. They'd rather make 7%, but they'll make the 3%. So
Mhm.
everybody, nobody at the courthouse steps can buy it. It's just not going to work. So I just couldn't let it go. Between it being so beautiful and that interest rate being 3% and Manuel basically being out of options, and basically he was walking away because he could not bring it current. That's when I came to Tasheen. And at that point, when I came to Tasheen and said, hey, I know that you had talked about the possibility of you um, being able to pull some magic. Is there any magic you can do here? Kind of tell me from when I brought that to you what your process was.
So essentially, what happens in these type of scenarios, an individual like Amy will bring me a deal. Homeowner is like, hey, I'm out of options, can't do anything, can't bring the loan current, don't have any money, any of that. I say, great. We love working with people like that. We love working with people that are in foreclosure, people that can't afford to come to the table with 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, $100,000. I mean, we've seen people be well over $150,000 in arrears. So the numbers don't surprise us anymore. Um, so what we then do is we have a conversation with the homeowner. We ask them like, hey, are you looking to keep this property? Yes, you'd like to keep the property. Okay, great. If you were in a hypothetical situation, if you were not $70,000 or 75,000 or whatever the number is, if you were not behind, does your current income support your monthly mortgage payment? Meaning, can you still make your monthly mortgage payment with the current income that you have now? If you can answer yes to these questions, great. We've got a program we can put you through that we commonly refer to as the Collins method, where we have you sign an information release the same way you do with your doctor. We also have you sign a limited power of attorney, which gives us the ability to negotiate on the homeowner's behalf. We then contact the bank. We submit the information to the bank. It can take anywhere between 3 to 5 days for the bank to process that information, depending on what banks you're dealing with. And some banks are more friendlier than others, just like some banks give you interest on your money and some banks don't. Um, so then once we get that information over to the bank, we have a conversation with the bank. We break down the entire account. How many payments are they behind? How far are they behind? What is the actual principal balance of the loan? What is the interest? What are the, attorney's fees if somebody has already gone to a notice of sale, meaning that the bank has actually hired an attorney to sue you in order to recoup the loan that they allege that they've pledged to you. Um, and so we get all this information from the bank, and then what we do is we say, great, the homeowner wants to keep the property, the homeowner is still residing in the property, and we understand that there's this thing called dual tracking that is a federal law that states under 12 CFR 1024 that the bank cannot attempt to foreclose on you and give you retention options at the same time. meaning that they cannot be reviewing you to allow you to keep your property and moving forward with foreclosure action at the same time. And if there's 37 days or more before an auction date, they legally have to review you for retention options.
Hmm.
If there is not 37 days or more, they can deny to look at you for retentionship options. And that's when we would utilize certain tactics like filing a certified validation of debt, which is your right under the Fair Debt Collections Practices Act, because a bank cannot legally own real estate. They are just acting as a collector of debt on behalf of a note holder. So, we'll put in requests like that. If there's 37 days or more, they're very friendly. They're willing to give you all of the information. And then we say, great, we want to be considered for what's called an FHA partial claim. Some lenders will tell you, we cannot consider you for a specific option. We can put in a request, and then we will come back with what option we're willing to offer you. We
Mhm.
advise them we would like to be streamlined through the FHA process, and we would like them to do what's called running the script, which means that they are not requiring a paper application. We are doing everything over the phone verbally, and then they are submitting us to their underwriting department for approval. Once we get the approval from underwriting, they then will submit what are called loan modification addendum documents, stating that they're going to take everything that you owe right now and they're going to basically move it to what we call the back end, or some people will tell you they're going to take out a secondary loan for the total amount that you owe at 0%, and they're going to place that as a what's called a second position lien on your property. And that loan is going to be from the Housing and Urban Development organization, not your actual mortgage servicer or the bank, because the Housing and Urban Development System has used federal funds to pay the bank the money that you were behind. So now the bank has not taken a loss. They've received that capital, and HUD has said, we're going to just record this to leverage the money that we borrowed you, and we're not charging you any interest. So it's almost like they're giving you a gift. And in most cases, we've seen people that have gotten loans in 2021 like this. We just got $75,000 forgiven, and there's 26, maybe 27 years left on this loan, which means we just got the bank and the government to agree to give us a 0% interest loan for 27 years with no monthly payments
Yeah, and it's
and
crazy.
no doc and no documents. So
Yeah, I mean,
technically,
and I, like I said, buying and holding was not on my radar. It's a beautiful, gem. Obviously, I'm thrilled to have it. But so now we're going to carry on, guys. So now let's go back and let's prove if that's, if, and the other thing about us, what do we say? If you don't have HUDs, you're duds. Yeah, we're going to show you the receipt. So let me take you right on back to the recording, the county recorder site. Let's see here where I'm at here. Let me see. Okay, so meanwhile, back at the ranch here we go. Now, as you guys recall, when we last tuned in, Manuel Hernandez oh, let me scroll down here. He was in trouble. Remember, they gave him the notice of default here, and then they got to wait at least 3 months to see if they'll bring it back up. And meanwhile, by the way, he's racking up, city fines, HOA fines. I mean, even though in theory we got a lot of the money removed, it still wasn't a free thing, but still, I'm controlling a $500,000 asset for far less than 10%. Um, and I paid Tasheen $5,000 to do this, and I'll show you why in a minute. Did he earn it? Heck yeah, on $73,000, you bet. So, there was things I had to pay out. As you can see here, I've got liens I've got to make up, yeah, things of that nature. Obviously, there's mortgage payments I have to do, getting the house furnished. I'm thinking that we might like to have it either almost like a pad split, as you know, if Manuel does not in fact and end up coming back, renting it out by the rooms, possibly even active living seniors. It's got such large living rooms, such large kitchen areas that there could be multiple people in there. So if I just put a family in there at 2,500 a month, it breaks even. And that's, fabulous that in, 25 years or whatever, I own the asset with no more debt. But I do believe I can get it to cash flow about $1,000 a month. And if I can do that, then that is, well, that's what is that? 12 over 25 years. That's what is that? 120? Is that 100? Let's see. If it cash flowed, if I can get it to cash flow $1,000 a month, and I know that's ambitious, and bear with me, I've never done this before, but 12,000 a year, and I'm guessing that that's after expenses. Let's even say that it's 10,000 a year because of vacancy and the war chest and things of that nature. So 10,000 a year times the next, what is it, 27 years? That's
Correct.
that's 270,000, but then I got to pay that $70,000 balloon off. So let's call that a net profit of $200,000. And at the end of it, I own the $500,000 asset. So I'm not mad at it at all. I'm very proud of it. So again, I got to pay all these liens off, and that's just fine. That's the way it goes. So here was the notice of sale. And just to show you again, here they told him, this is basically January 1st. It's the very end of December. So they should have waited till February 1st, March 1st, April 1st. And they did. They waited until the end of April. They said, all right, that's it. Notice the sale. But then, and again, now he owes the homeowners association. I mean, just everybody, but that's okay. So all of a sudden, what happens here? Oh my goodness. What happens here? Let's go check this document. It looks like Guild Mortgage canceled their default. Why would they do that? Because they're going to say, listen, we got paid. What do you mean you get paid? I didn't pay. Manuel didn't pay. Let's see what it says here. Notice of rescission of notice of default. It says that they are basically removing all of their thing, the said obligations, including one note for 416,000. They're saying that whatever it is, we are now they're now saying basically you guys are good. We're taking back our notice of default. You're no longer in hot water. And again, as you guys can tell from the Redfin listing, there's no pre-foreclosure listed here. Also on PropStream, there is no pre-foreclosure listed here. There's no pre-foreclosure, and that was not the case just before. But look at all these liens I gotta pay. It's fine, but so it wasn't free, but it was still an amazing price to. And if I didn't have a home in Reno that I already lived at, would I move my family into this and make an affordable payment on a beautiful home? Absolutely. So, going back again to the records, let's look at what happened. Manuel Hernandez got that loan from the U.S. Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, Housing and Urban Development, HUD. Let's go see if
And that
Tasheen.
is exactly what I just told you is we're going to contact HUD and
Yep.
HUD is going to give us some money. This is the
Right. So
federal government.
let's see if HUD gave us the money. Let's look at this recorded document. Let's see what it says. Okay, partial claims mortgage. What does it say here? It says that Manuel Hernandez received from HUD, HUD, there's HUD. Da, 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 da. Oh, look at that. $72,925. Now, but I got to pay that back in the year 2051. And again, how much interest is that accruing for the next 25 years, Tasheen?
0% interest. I believe if
0%.
you scroll down, the document will actually tell you that there's no interest.
You're kidding.
Payment to borrower shall pay when the principal of the debt evidenced by the note borrower has not released, forbearance waiver, blah, 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 blah. Scroll down a little bit more. Acceleration.
So I'm looking to see if we see it or don't see it. I don't.
It might be in the beginning too.
It might be. Let me scroll back on up here. But yeah, either way, I mean, it clearly says 73, partial claims mortgage. So basically, it's a second mortgage. So now he's got a first and a second, and I'll kind of break those numbers down for you guys. Okay.
Mm, subordinate. All right. So subordinate mortgage, August 21 for that property, instrument housing and development, security. The security instrument, a repayment of the debt evident by note and exclusions, modifications, the payment and all other under paragraph 7.
Scroll up a
Scroll
little.
down, Washita County, blah, 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 Reno. Yes, I don't see it broken down in here.
No worries. So we won't
They
get
may
too far in the
also have
weeds on that.
another.
But what we think it is, y'all, is a totally deferred second loan. And again, I don't know of anybody that's given out second mortgages at 0% when rates are at 6 and 7%. But now that doesn't mean that I don't still owe it. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about the fact that this is $73,000. All right. And let's also go and talk about the fact that if that wiped away all other sins, and let's just say I don't really have the total numbers, but let's just say that in addition is $390,000. That brings this loan back to current, which it would because we're no longer in hot water. That means that I took over about $463,000 worth of debt. Now, PropStream saying 431. Tiberius, it's a larger PropStream saying, excuse me, Redfin saying 483. Let me just obviously this is I never and I didn't comp it too deeply, guys, because I wasn't planning on selling it. I was planning on keeping it, but let's just see if Zillow gives us a rough idea. I would guess it's worth around 470 would be my guesstimate on that, which is good because right now I literally owe 470 on it. But remember, I actually owe 463. However, you guys saw that I had thousands in liens and that this wasn't free. So unfortunately I didn't buy any equity in this deal, but I am controlling the asset. And um uh so that's a neighboring house. So again, I'm controlling an asset that's about worth that, but it's still I didn't fill out any paperwork on my own behalf for a loan. I didn't do any of that. I took it subject to. I didn't walk into a lot of equity, but I did control a pretty cool asset. So I wanted to show you guys these documents to show you that it actually, it's real. It's literally recorded. And as of now, Guild said, listen, we're not mad at you anymore. We're canceling your default. You've got a new secondary mortgage at 0%. So literally the proof is in the pudding on this very property that Tasheen, pulled that off. So, Tasheen, are there any instances that you have done so far where somebody did end up with the home and some equity as well?
Um, yeah, I'd say actually I have one in DFW that I'm buying this week. I would say it doesn't really anything for me personally, anything with 10% equity or less, I count as negative equity. Um, so because there's always expenses between
Sure.
closing cost and
Don't I
realtors,
know it at this
you
point? Yeah.
know, all of that kind of stuff, which eats up that 10%.
Yeah.
So really, if there's not like 25% equity or better, in my opinion, it really doesn't have any equity.
Well,
But that being said, this one that we're buying, the house I believe is worth about 340, maybe 360. We're at about 294,000 in loans between a first position at 275 and a second position at 18,273, which was the same thing. We got them a partial claim. They decided after the beauty of this, right? And I want to emphasize this for anybody that's watching in the future, is the beauty of this program is we don't do this to buy the property subject to. We do this process to put the homeowner back in control, take the control out of the bank's hand, put the homeowner back in control, and let the homeowner say what is best for the homeowner to do with the asset after the fact.
right.
Sometimes during this process, somebody's already been approved, and then, family is sick, or they have a reduction in income, or they just simply say, well, I don't want to continue to pay a $2,100 mortgage a month when I can go rent a property for $1,300 a month, and they rather save the income. So then they say, okay, well, you guys have helped us with this process. Do you know anybody that would be willing to buy the house? Because maybe they can't sell because their mortgage is exactly what the house is worth. And if they were to put it on the market, they have to wait all these months, which would still require a mortgage payment. They'd have to pay an agent. They'd have to pay closing costs. They'd have to deal with all of this. So sometimes subject to or what I like to actually use is a debt consolidation offer because most people understand what debt consolidation is. Most people don't understand what a subject to offer is. So when
Right.
I'm making subject to offers, I tend to refer to them as a debt consolidation package unless somebody already understands the real estate lingo of subject to.
Well, and that's another thing with Manuel Hernandez. Another thing that you'll see on there is that people say, "Oh, well, have you, gone to a TC? Have you taken it sub to?" No, all of this was going back and forth, and because of course I'd never done it before. Certainly, Manuel Hernandez had never done it before. We didn't know what the approval process was like, so we don't know. We still to this day don't know if it's going to be taken subject to. But either way, whatever he decides to do, he's obviously in a much better position because the only reason he didn't want to stay in the home was because he couldn't possibly make up this $70,000 of arrears. What Tasheen's system did was take that 72,000. He still owes it. Fair is fair, and I agree with that. They just tacked it on the very end. Let's see where we are in 30 years, and nobody knows obviously where prices are going to go. However, for Manuel as a homestead buyer, he doesn't care what the equity is. He cares if he has a room and a place to put up a Christmas tree with his kids. And can he afford that principal, interest, taxes, and insurance payment at 3% to have a super duper nice house for his family and be in a $2,500 or under a month payment, which is, you can't rent a house. That's what you rent a house out here for. So he has that option. If he decides he doesn't want to do that, or he ends up staying in Los Angeles and he decides that he does want to take it sub two, then obviously it's a good target for Pace's afterburner. There's a lot of things that could be rented out by the room. And in this case, Manuel, as a homestead buyer, won't care if it cash flows. He didn't buy it to cash flow. He bought it to live in with his family. And on my side of the thing, I never meant to be a buy and holder. But if he decides he doesn't want it, now that here's the other thing that we did that's it for him. Even if he decides down the road he needs to decide, is he Nevada, is he California, what's he gonna do? But even if he ends up choosing California, he's no longer in foreclosure. His credit isn't destroyed. It could be rented out here. He could rent out a couple of the rooms here to offset it. He's got options now without this giant boulder of a foreclosure barreling down on him. So now he gets to choose what he wants to do because we've taken the arrears and whoosh, put him on the back end, but like 30 years later at 0% on the back end. We've got
I
plenty of time
mean,
to decide now.
so what I would love to encourage you guys to do is contact your credit card company or your car company and ask them, hey, will you defer my payments that I owe for the next 27 years at 0% interest?
Please say
And
please.
just
Please is
and
key.
just see if
Yeah,
the
yeah.
see if
They'll
the
say,
credit
hey,
card
hey,
company.
Tasheen, tell me if this sounds like a phone hanging up. Yeah. No.
So
Yeah.
and I mean we've been able to do this and this is one thing that I want to share, right? We started doing this obviously we charge, nominal fees for this. And there's there's always roadblocks in everything that you do. Um so we've recently been enlightened that if we were to scale this to a point of recognition, that we would be in competition with the um, housing and urban development organization themselves, which in the past, we'll say, has not ended very well for business owners who
Right.
um,
Fought the
become
law and the
in
law won.
competition with them.
Yep.
So we are working to tweak the way in which we deliver this information in a way that we can give the information for the empowerment of homeowners who may be facing foreclosure to navigate this process themselves.
So it's not
And
Tasheen doing it as an advocate for Manuel. It's really Manuel's. Maybe somebody's helping Manuel a little bit with the paperwork, but it's really coming from Manuel, at least from their side of the
100%.
fax machine.
100%. So it's coming from Manuel. Maybe they're using us as a reference guide or a place to get information
Right.
from, and they're able to, provide donations to be able to assist future families in
Right.
the process.
Yeah,
Uh,
so I'd leave it with this. If anybody out there is looking at a house that's in foreclosure and it's got big arrears that are too big to deal with. I mean, $70,000 is a lot of money. And it's an FHA loan. We might have some options for you. Also, if it's a loan of any kind, conventional, FHA, VA, and it's say $20,000 in arrears and liens behind, contact me. We can buy our way out of that one. What we can do on that deal is I can just say, okay, I couldn't get the foreclosure stopped. Let me just pay the arrears for Manuel Hernandez. And then I'm going to put a deed of trust and promissory note. Let's say that the home is worth 300,000, but the bank is owed 200,000 and 20,000 of that is arrears. But then call me and I'll say, okay, well, never mind. We won't even try to stop the thing. Let's just pay the arrears. And then I'm going to put a deed of trust and promissory note on the thing saying, hey, I loaned 20,000 to get this out of hot water. So if it ever gets back in hot water and does get sold, sure, the bank gets their 200, but hey, I get my 20,000 back plus, any interest, whatever they and I worked out. 40,000 scares me. 30,000 sort of scares me, but 40,000 scares me. Anything 40,000 above. 20,000 and below, if those are the arrears, don't let 20,000 or less in arrears. Let a valuable home that has great equity go to foreclosure. Reach out to me. We can figure it out. It's a loan literally backed by real estate with a ton of equity. That one doesn't scare me at all.
And I'll tell you guys, right, when she says the $20,000 figure, and this is just improv, right? We don't rehearse any of this. This is us just, jumping on a Zoom call, recording something and giving it to you guys, raw as what we do every day, and then just sharing what we're doing. But as she says that, I mean, we just bought a property, a 3-bed, 2-bathroom, 1,300 square feet property in Macon, Georgia, that was in foreclosure. The entry fee on that property was about 40,000. Pretty it was a higher entry fee, but I mean we have a 25% cash on cash return on
Nice.
that deal as a long-term rental. That person was $16,000 in arrears, and it was an FHA loan. However, their foreclosure was scheduled for October 1st. I got the deal, I want to say September 27th, the wholesaler contacted me. So we had a total of like 4 days to close this deal. And with leveraging connections and private money partners, we were able to wire the bank to a Texas attorney. We were able to wire the $40,000 to a Texas attorney, which did include a $20,000 assignment fee. So I want you guys to understand, not only can foreclosure save the person, but if you're a wholesaler that's dealing with foreclosures, we do pay wholesalers to bring us foreclosure homes.
Yeah.
I asked a wholesaler that was familiar with my process why we weren't doing my process to save the $16,000 in an entry fee, because normally I would have wanted to save the 16 grand.
Sure.
How we had to move quickly because they brought us the deal on maybe the 26th or the 27th. They had an auction scheduled for the 1st. So instead of, working the magic, because magic takes time, you have
Yeah.
to put the potion together. We just said, screw it. We're gonna pay the
Stop the
$16,000.
train. And when I told you I bat about 650, we can immediately do a purchase and sale agreement, open escrow, start throwing, and I can talk this fast, this annoying all day long. If you don't believe me, ask my husband. He's like, ugh, her again. But we can certainly do that. And a lot of times we can stop it with BS, but with a wire transfer, with the right information, at the end of the day, if you can't stop the wolf at the door, shoot the wolf. And all they're saying is, you promised you were going to pay. You are now $20,000 in arrear. We're going to sell it. Remember in the end of every boogeyman movie or bad guy movie when the big bad guy from the bank's just about to sell the house? If they don't sell it, it's always the last second that it gets stopped. Nothing happened. Doesn't matter. So what he's saying is if we can't stop it because we have 2 weeks time and we can start talking to the trustees, if we have no choice, let's just pay the arrears. If there's not an overdue balance, they've got nothing to foreclose on. If I'm not driving my car right now, no cop can arrest me for a traffic violation. I'm literally not in my car. You got nothing on me, Sarge.
100%.
Yeah.
So, we
Shoot the
we
wolf if you have to. If you can't stop it any other way, contact us. We'll kill the wolf at the door. Are we going to charge for that? Yes. But can we stop it? If it makes money for you, makes money for us, and makes money for the seller, is anybody mad at that? This is good news.
100%. So, and I mean, at the end of the day, the seller got to make some money in that deal. The wholesaler got to make some money in that deal. We got to, get a property in that deal without having to go to a bank, without having to show a W-2, without having to show tax returns, without having to pull our credit score so that we lower our credit score in the process of trying to buy a piece of real estate.
Right.
We didn't have to do any of that. We made a private agreement between ourselves and a few other people and purchased a property.
Yeah, and you mentioned that the guy, the seller that was in foreclosure, you said he was how much in arrears?
He was $16,000 in arrears.
$16,000 in arrears. And how much did he end up making on the deal?
I want to say he walked away with about 4 grand in his pocket. So,
So he walked away with not getting thrown out by the sheriffs, which is embarrassing. He moved out on his terms. He walked away with cash in his pocket and he did not have a foreclosure. He was just selling a little real estate like we all do.
yeah. So, and I mean, in a situation like that, right? You essentially, how we look at it is that seller in all actually got 20 grand. He got 4 grand in his pocket. He
16
got
grand in
us
free
to
rent.
pay 16 grand in arrears. We didn't even use a secondary loan in his name. So he got us to pay $16,000 on his behalf. That's almost like paying off somebody's vehicle. I
It is. And
pretty
that's
much
like he
give,
just, yeah, he didn't get that in a negative. That's literally, I don't know about you, but my rent is 1515. So it's a year to 1 to 2 years of rent payments.
So, and then the beautiful thing about the fact that we're taking it subject to is now he doesn't have to worry about any future payments,
No,
and it's going
credit.
to report every single month on his credit. So a lot of people will tell them that they give them credit repair. We do not advise that we give you credit repair. What we do, unless we pair you with a credit repair agency, if we're not giving you a credit repair agency, in fact, what a subject to offer does is give you credit maintenance on one credit account because I cannot be accountable for what you're doing with your
Right.
credit cards, what you're doing with your car payment. So I can't make the claim that me paying your mortgage is going to increase your credit. But what I can make the claim is that if I've taken over your mortgage, I can guarantee you that your mortgage account will have 100% payment history, which will show as a positive account on your credit. And then whatever you do with the remaining accounts on your credit will decide if my positivity is going to increase your credit worthiness or not.
Love it. Love it. Yeah, no, I think it's great. And guys, obviously, Tasheen and I learn, different stuff, but he's got every time I talk to him, I'm like, mind blown about ideas. And again, the answer is, it started out that we were just commiserating with each other because, there was so much stuff we didn't understand, but little by little we started figuring it out. So, but obviously, when I looked at this deal, I was out of my element. I'm not a buy and holder, or at least not yet. And I'm hoping that I need to start buying and holding to offset taxes. I'm not quite there yet. But I said, Tasheen, what do I do? And he came back with the answers. So obviously reach out to this guy. He's got a lot of good answers. And again, squad up. We were squatting up way before we had any deals. But again, I couldn't have kept Tiberius had he have not come in. And $73,000, how many years do I get to be like, dude, I still have that house? It's a long time. And it's because he knew the secret knock and I didn't. So I was happy, I was more than happy to pay for his expertise because if I would have slacked off or gotten intimidated, I would have dropped the ball. He kept us on it. Squatting up again, as I said before, was squatting up 1 + 1 = 10.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I mean, just the just the ability, right? We have a homeowner in Colorado right now where a wholesaler brought me a deal. We did the same thing for them. They were about 18, maybe 20 grand in arrears. We helped get the arrears pushed to the back end. In the process of doing that, they were able to go through surgery, get what they needed to get done, and get back to work.
Nice.
And they said, you know what? I don't want to sell my property subject to anymore. I'm going to keep my property because I'm back to work. I can afford my monthly payment. You guys just brought us out of foreclosure. How do I compensate you? So, we've had even homeowners that we work with directly that don't have to relocate, that don't have to move out of their home, that don't have to sell their home, but because we've helped them, have said like, hey, if we ever do
Yeah.
decide to sell, we want to work with you guys. We want to reach out to you. We want to use you guys as an expertise. So understand that these skills and these things that you learn in real estate, regardless of who you're learning them from, they are not to be used and not they are not taught to um inflict negativity on
Absolutely not.
individuals.
And I am
They,
not, when I go door knocking on foreclosures, I am not interested in taking anybody's house that doesn't want it. But what you'll find is you're going to knock on plenty of doors, and those people, they're already gone, babe. They're gone. And even in Manuel Hernandez's case or this case, Manuel may decide to keep the house, but now he gets to choose from a position of strength, not a position of somebody else forcing him out of a house. He bought that house for a reason. He got, behind in 2021. Everybody remembers how bad it was, how bad it still is. It's been a tough time, but now it's almost like my husband and I aren't married. I come home because I want to come home, not because I'm legally obligated to do so. We shook hands on it, and that's about it. I'm sort of the poor man's Goldie Hawn to his poor man's Kurt Russell, but we don't come home because we have to, because we're both saddled by a mortgage. We come home because we want to. We choose every night to come home. So, it's not about tricking people out of their houses. It's not, you don't even need to do that. Every time you help somebody, believe me, there's plenty of houses where people say, listen, I don't even care. I got to move to Georgia. Things, there's no need to kidnap any houses when plenty of them come willingly.
yeah, no, and I mean, I tell people all the time, right? Everything that we get, the finances, the houses, the assets, the ability to travel and do all of these things. These are not the motivation behind what we do. These are the results of the value that we bring to the community in which we serve, which allows us to do these things.
Yeah.
So when you understand that, yes, you're going to make money. Yes, you're going to be able to, do things that other people maybe aren't doing or are afraid of making the change to be able to do, that that is not the motivation behind why you get into entrepreneurship. And if it is, you will very soon realize that the path of entrepreneurship has many different ways to humiliate and to humble you very quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. What is it? I have a dental plan. I chew on the other side now. Yeah.
Right? Like,
No, but and that's yeah, it's definitely done. And every now and again, you think, well, didn't work. I'm helping this person move for no reason. But just because you're doing something here, the payback isn't always linear. But I do also find, if you're watching this content literally like an hour into this, then clearly it lights you up. It's not like I'd be on a show right now watching things about how people refurbish mufflers. Bleh, I have no, I'm sure people love, I don't want to talk about how to redo a boat. I don't care. This lights me up. So if it moves you, then great. But there's plenty of opportunity out there. But it's, if you're feeling like it's time to learn something new, then this is definitely it, because there's a lot of amazing stuff out there that nobody ever bothered to teach us, but it's definitely pretty cool. And if you kind of want to write your own ticket and have a different day every day, then this is it. So, and we're not that many steps ahead of you. We've only been doing it since 2022. But if there's anything that we can do to help, we'll do it, because you may not pay us back, but God will.
100%.
So, well, all right, Tasheen, always amazing talking to you. I appreciate you. I will get this video sent off to you and see you on episode 3.
All right. See you on episode 3. Can't
All
wait to
right.
talk about some
Thanks.
overages and stuff.
Sounds good. Love it. I've got like 10 topics already, so we'll get there.
All right.
All
Sounds
right.
great.
Talk soon. Bye.